Welcome, everybody. My name is Valo.ai, Lucid CTA. I am here extremely happy and pleased to welcome Jari Salomaa. He's the CEO and founder of Valo.ai. For full disclosure, I'm actually on his advisory board. We met at Dreamforce in 2025, became fast friends. I think Valo is a fantastic product, and Jari is a visionary, true visionary. He's actually a Salesforce legend. So he's a product manager for Salesforce Shield, event monitoring, transaction security. He's also the man behind the Salesforce Health Check that we all know and love. Extremely useful feature, especially now. He also was the product manager for Big Objects and had a hand in tooling APIs. So literally some of the biggest features that you've ever worked with or heard about, he was behind them. So Jari, welcome. So please tell us, what gaps did you see in the native tools that ultimately led you to leave Salesforce and co-found Valo.ai?
Thank you, Svet, for having me. Excited to be here. And hello, everybody from San Francisco. I've had a opportunity to be part of a very exciting Salesforce journey. I think in the kind of the mid for Salesforce, kind of moving towards more enterprise sales and bigger clients, and then building more trust to customers to store sensitive and regulated data in Salesforce. And we kind of like built paid products like Salesforce Shield to address the main concerns at the time, how to kind of like protect data in the first party Salesforce data center, so that you're meeting regulatory concerns. And then secondly, through event monitoring and transaction security, like knowing what's happening in your environment. And all of those tools requires quite a extensive build out and kind of intimate knowledge of Salesforce, but really help Salesforce tackle larger enterprises. And I think now why we founded Valo is that we're seeing that many admins, architects are challenged by this changing environment where Salesforce is now not only used by humans, but also apps, AI agents, and the kind of the access patterns are evolving. And while we're also seeing this change in the way Salesforce is being used, there's also an existential threat to Salesforce from AI itself. And I think a lot of these like AI native, AI first tooling, from a business logic and context perspective, how AI is changing the enterprise. And I think customers need tools to be able to better understand what is connected to their, customer support process, sales process, marketing process internally. And Valo is in the mission to manage Salesforce security settings on your behalf to make sure that you are making the right decisions at the right time.
So basically keeping us safe in light of all the recent breaches that Salesforce experienced, especially last year. But we're not going to see the end of that for quite some time, I would say. All right. So for the Lucid CTA subscribers and a listener, the folks who live in the architecture and also the CTA world. So how would you describe Valo in one sentence? And why is it the so-called ready-made event monitoring platform that so many orgs have been quietly wishing for?
Yeah. So I think the one sentence pitch is that Valo is the tool to understand Salesforce adoption, performance, and security in real time. And this is what we build. This is what we provide. And then the reason why Valo exists is that no Salesforce is sane. So the existing tools, I think there is this SaaS security posture management and SSPM category. There's log monitoring, SIM tools, tools like Splunk where data gets dumped. But when we look at the data breaches last year, it's evident that people don't know where to look and what to translate from these logs. They need a turnkey solutions. They need to understand the business logic, the context, what is going on here. No Salesforce is the same. There's no customer that uses Salesforce in the same way. They all are little different and unique. So to really get to the bottom of it, you need solutions that understand that business logic and context, and then help you as an architect or an admin to make informed decisions around adoption, performance, and security. Valo provides that out of the box.
Gotcha. So, yeah, I've worked with lots of enterprise orgs as well as for U.S. government projects, and I've seen that, for instance, event transaction monitoring or platform security, they're often bundled into the deal. And of course, those are extremely expensive tools, but I've yet to see an organization or a company or a government agency to take full advantage of that. So I guess the product is supposed to make that part easier. You don't log into Salesforce, but you log into its own separate UI where you basically see everything, right?
Right. Yeah, I think the important thing is that, like, especially with customers that have been using Salesforce for a long time, you generate technical debt. There's been many solutions in the ecosystem for years that have been trying to address this and help architects and help developers and admins to kind of keep their Salesforce environment healthy and smooth and operationally efficient. Now, I think in the first time in our existence, we are facing a completely new concern where actually the usage pattern is not coming from a human, but it comes from a script and an app. Unlike humans, these are so powerful actions that you need a lot of analysis and compute to be better baselining behavior, that what's normal, what's not. Is this actually, am I really talking to Svet, or is this a clone or an AI agent or AI version of Svet? How do we know? We need to analyze it, and there's specific inputs. And Valo has been built in the Google Cloud, and we connect through APIs into Salesforce, and we analyze every single user app AI agent in order to profile the behavior to keep everybody informed and safe what is happening in the environment, and what objects they're accessing and how often and how and where from.
Sounds very powerful. So basically, I think we can both agree that Salesforce security has evolved from, set it and forget it to constant vigilance, which is what you were just describing. And in your opinion, what are the biggest blind spots that you see today, especially around connected apps? Is it permission sprawl? Is it multi-org complexity and explosion of the AI agents?
Yeah, I think, like, I'm not, envious at all for many of you in the ecosystem managing big production orgs with thousands of users. Like, there's a lot of things you have to do. Whereas it was involved building Shield, a decade ago, I think we can kind of agree it was built for a different threat profile that we have now. We were building trust and key management for the Salesforce first-party data center to kind of encrypt data there, building logs that then you can kind of like work with your security team and put in a log container, and then field audit trail, knowing like how data changes. Now, if we look at the threat landscape, like, it's clear that these hundreds and maybe even thousands of data breaches we know from Google, Cisco, Workday, the airlines, Hawaiian Airlines, Air France, KLM, Allianz Insurance, Fujifilm, all the luxury brands,
The
Christian
list goes
Dior.
on.
It keeps on going. Like, well, how did it happen? It happened through connected apps. And now, of course, Salesforce is taking quite a big action in the Spring 26 release by sunsetting all new connected apps, which is a kind of like a pretty remarkable decision, and moving towards this new ECAs, the external client app architecture for all the new apps. And I would call everybody in the ecosystem to also check out. We publish some technical information on the Valo.ai website, giving everybody, including also all the ISVs, to what this means for them. I think there will be a time, not too distant in the future, where the entire connected app architecture will be completely gone. You will have more of a policy-based approach with ECAs. But at the moment, connected apps will continue working as normal, but to create new ones won't be possible after the spring release. And when we really think about also, furthermore, why this change is happening, it comes down to permissions and access. So a lot of customers have overprivileged users. They are using connected apps and intermingling human users and agent app users through the same accounts. So it is a wild west out there. Salesforce orgs we see, huge amount of admins, human admins, app admins, having privileges that they never show any permissions activity that they would actually warrant those permissions. Like, for instance, permission to assign permissions, that I can kind of grant other accesses to other ones. and we have
The gateway.
hundreds of users connected to our environment, the way we communicate as alerts to our customers that, hey, these users have permissions to assign permissions, but they've never done this job. And I think it's important to spend time to actually analyze these and take action what the tool provides.
So perhaps now would be a good time to do a little show and tell if you're not opposed to that. So just to see what Valo actually looks like, feels
Oh, sure.
like.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be interesting. Because we can sit here all day talking about this interesting, exciting stuff, but seeing is believing.
absolutely. So hopefully the screen sharing works fine. Let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes, I can.
Alrighty. So we are now logged into the Valo dashboard. And in the dashboard, this is really a view for the platform owner. So, or maybe it's a senior architect in the organization, but somebody who wants to kind of like get a quick snapshot of the entire environment. In this environment, we actually have I think about 645 apps
Oof.
connected into this environment. And I think we have about 200 or so human users. So what Valo does, it automatically kind of scans every environment here, and it looks at inbound integrations in orange, and then blue ones are the outbound integrations, and it draws this out. And now if you're a consultant, you're a admin, you're an architect, and you're looking at like, hey, there's an issue with Tableau. Let's look at Tableau. We can see that it's okay. It's connected to 3 different environments here. And what Valo does out of the box, it provides a automatic kind of key information around the vendor reputation, for instance. So it looks at the who is the provider of this software, what is the terms of service, what is the privacy policy, what they do with the data, where does it go, in what country, and then what does that actually policy say? Does this company also have any ISO certification, SOC 2? What is the developer familiarity? And based on that, we give a vendor reputation score. But then also within the environment, we provide a security score. So how this app is being used. So then that consists of the vendor reputation, as well as then the security policies, how it authenticates, what permissions it has, and then what kind of user activity is exhibited from this app. And using this information, of course, now we have filters. We can see when was the app last seen, find any historical apps that, haven't been used in a year, 6 months, what kind of a type of an app it is, and then what category, show me only the tools that are, for admins or document management, marketing, sales and so forth. And then of course, like, where is it connecting from? What countries and and locations the app is going, where is my data going, and all of these details quickly on your fingertips, as well as then of course the permission details and others. But let me take a quick break here and then pause if you have any reflections. What do you think?
Yeah, this is pretty comprehensive, and it's definitely fascinating. So the security score, so it looks like you compiled a kind of a vendor catalog, like you've done the homework for us, and you've researched all of these providers and companies, and some of them perhaps are not necessarily familiar to Valo, but you're constantly adding more to the vendor registry, I would imagine. So like, for instance, if we take a look at Cloud Pivot, we don't know what that is, but it looks like it's 49 and the vendor reputation is to be determined at this point. So you're not necessarily prohibited, right, from installing that app, but what is the purpose here? Is it to warn somebody to be extra vigilant before
Yeah,
they...
absolutely. Great question. So of course, there's a lot of custom apps and applications Valo has never seen. So there's also a mechanism of like automatically then labeling, categorizing custom apps, as well as then for us to analyze them. But what's really the big output here is that like we can see that when it comes to this low scoring Cloud Pivot example, is that 14 days ago, the Valo is producing an alert that there's a new integration in the environment, and it's also highlighting a potential security risk. It has a low score. And then now 2 days ago, well, actually, it's also highlighting that it's authenticating in an insecure method. But now it's also highlighting an unusual API activity here, and we draw it out here in this graph. We can click it, and we can see that like there is now nearly 250,000 API calls on opportunity and account objects. So we get these details. We can also then actually highlight that, hey, we can see this coming from Amazon infrastructure. And if we now go to the tokens view, we can also see that, like, hey, Deborah Thomas, has a very high active use of Cloud Pivot. And if needed, we actually then can immediately revoke access. We can revoke the token directly from Valo. So it's an end-to-end way of like making sure data is not flowing into apps that are not authorized or shouldn't be connected. And I think the way of understanding value with Valo is that we produce these insights. So if we look at these Cloud Pivot examples that we just walked through, we have here 8 unresolved insights. So we have 3 low risk, 2 medium risk, and then 3 high risk insights, and they all kind of contain these details of, like, here with the data loader detecting there's a login from a new IP address detected from Moscow, Russia. This org has never seen any connectivity from Russia. It's highlighting that. Or there is now this Salesforce drift recently, impacted by a data breach.
Yep.
Being used inside this environment, and the tool will give you automatic remediation steps, as well as then the ability to revoke access immediately if any of these issues are highlighted.
So how does the user come to learn about these insights? Is that something that they have to log into Valo's dashboard to see, or do they get notified?
Yeah, there's absolutely notifications. So, like, customers can actually go into their user profile here, and there's different kinds of categories, whether it's all high risk insights or new application connections, or something is unused, recent breaches, suspicious access, and you can then subscribe to these different kinds of like alerts directly from here, and the system will automatically notify you, and you can then connect those notifications, to Slack bots or Jira or whatever ticketing system you have in order to investigate them further.
Got it. Okay, so this is basically, in a way, not exactly a set it and forget it, but you don't have to log in and constantly stay logged in. But once you get notified by Valo, you check your email or those notification platforms, then you can actually take action on those insights.
Absolutely, but we also offer, I would think, like big, good reasons to log in more often. Like, for instance, in the users and licenses tab, you get like automatic analysis of the user activity. So, for instance, here we have additional insights that somebody may have assigned a suboptimal license. Like in Maria Martin's case, she's a sales rep, and we can get actually information of her Salesforce access patterns, how she's using it, what apps, as well as then this information is that she's been only accessing objects available for the platform license, but she has this standard Salesforce user license, the more expensive license assigned.
Right.
So you can actually now think about this from a spend and cost management perspective to understand how Maria or every user in your environment is using Salesforce. And then, of course, we also apply what we call permission power, which is now what Maria or users can do. If these are maybe your integration users, your AI users, human users, and you can actually browse permissions. And yeah, we get going to this permission browser feature, and you can actually then see individual, object level access, where they are derived from, and we have this very super, easy to use, quick to see interface, including field permissions,
Even the field permissions.
all of these details that you can actually use as an admin and architect to get around some details in a very fast, efficient way, across your environment. So, like, it's not just notifying and monitoring, but it's also providing these key insights and details around what those permissions and accesses for individual users are.
That's pretty cool. You actually hit on one of my most favorite things to talk about. So, the topic of license mix. Most of us don't really think about this, because when you come to a Salesforce implementation, be it greenfield or brownfield, licenses have already been assigned and selected and sold by Salesforce, and you had absolutely nothing to do with that. And then you start on your CTA journey, and one of the first things they tell you is that you need to learn as much as possible about the licenses, would be for internal as well as external users and all their limitations and so on. And everybody just starts with a blank stare and says, why should I care about that? I am not an account executive, but why should I care? And then it just becomes evident that we were all told a white lie, so to speak, when you show that upside down pyramid where the org-wide defaults are at the bottom. They say this is the baseline access to security in Salesforce, but I would argue it actually starts with the license itself. Like, for instance, Maria Martin has the CRM license, so she can probably view leads and opportunities, but the platform user license would not be able to get access to those. So I would say in this case, if they have too many permissions, too big of a scope, you could downgrade them to platform, save money, as well as make it more secure, because then there's just no way that a user would be able to get access to anything having to do with those higher levels, more expensive objects like opportunity, for instance. Okay,
Absolutely.
cool.
That is so important. And when I'm working with customers, just a quick call out is that we see overprivileged users in pretty much every environment. And when we look at the data breaches and the impacts of the data breaches, this is a major call out, I think, to everybody in the ecosystem that we need to kind of this year really think about the concept of least privilege and minimize permissions to what users really need to see, which you can get by using tools like event monitoring or Valo or other logs to be able to get to that power of knowing what your users are doing. Of course, you can talk to them, you can interview them, but also having concrete evidence that how often you use this and how often which objects each individual needs. So that's kind of a major call out. And through this process, we can minimize impacts because we know it's quite likely in the future there will be more impacts. And if we now want to kind of proactively secure ourselves, it's important that we go through the permissions and accesses right now.
Okay. And so that also kind of brings me to my next question. So when you authenticate with Salesforce, like you first log into Valo, you become a user, you authenticate with Salesforce, then perhaps you could show us how you do that. I'm pretty sure you're using OAuth 2 for that. And so would you be then connecting as the user, or would you be able to, or would you be using the integration user profile and account for that?
Yeah, this is absolutely if you're doing tests, you have your own dev environment, you want to quickly kind of run a trial. I wouldn't say that it's a terrible idea to test the connection through your own account. But if you're working with production sandbox, we have a very good documentation on our website on how to create the minimized permissions user for Valo in order to look through the permissions Valo needs. We don't need access to any of the customer data, only metadata. And now, of course, with this new architecture of ECAs, there's two different ways to connect. You're using the connected app, so this older architecture, or now this new ECA architecture. And we try to make it very easy with documentation, and also we have some exciting plans for the roadmap to do this on your behalf. So we'll have a one-button provisioning feature coming out in the future where we will do the entire connection on customers' behalf. But if we look at some of these orgs, just to showcase some of the data that we're pulling out, is then we're pulling out the list of integrations, API usage details, the users list, and that's the only, I would say, PII within the environment that we need to look into. We need to look at your employees' names, and then also the licensees, what permissions are tied to those licensees, as well as then the list of the tokens. And that's all the environment will need in order to perform this analysis.
Got it. So it seems to be pretty straightforward. When I first connected, I noticed how quick Valo is to extract the necessary data. It didn't take anywhere close to 24 hours. In fact, it was probably about 30 minutes or so. And it was a pretty well-established org as well. So that's, you kind of quick to get started with Valo when you first provision?
You should get all the connected app security use cases covered within the within minutes of connecting your environment. When it comes to license analysis, we take actually 2 weeks. So we won't populate any of the license and money related recommendations until we've looked into the environment at least 2 weeks. But we offer a 30-day free trial, so everybody should within that first 30 days get a full tour of the house and try every feature. And everything works. You can connect as many sandboxes, production orgs, dev orgs as you like into the environment to get like the full test drive for the entire app.
Okay, so then you can look at it from two lenses. One, I'm the customer, and this is my org, and I want to see what's going on in that org as well as my sandboxes. And the other lens is that I'm a consultant, I'm a systems integrator, I have multiple clients, and I'd like to have all those orgs at a glance, and I don't want to have to swivel chair between them. It's the user experience is the same, right? You go to where the orgs are, like you were just showing, and just select the one you want, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we actually have like a probably 30 or so consultant organizations using Valo right now, and some of them have up to about dozen customers connected here. In this environment, like I was showing from this managed orgs, I think we have about 20 different Salesforce orgs connected here, and you can just switch between them. So, like for instance, our new feature in the Access Explorer. Let's see if let's ask this simple question like which users have view all
View all
data.
data. Yeah, my favorite, modify all data. That's even worse.
Yeah. So it pulls out this information. Okay, sysadmin profile. These are the individuals. You can actually then click these so you can get additional details. But if you want to switch between different orgs, you can actually then just like get the same kind of a results based on the different environments that
Wow.
you're looking into, and just works out of the box. You can do multi-org. You can compare users between your production, your sandbox, your developer environment, and all of the views are also exportable. So if you need to communicate with your clients, your consultant, you need to kind of explain technical information, like all of these details. Then and every page, every permission list, app connection list are all exportable that you can then map and manage those also outside the tool.
And exportable, how exactly? What do you get as the
Yeah, so you
product
can
of the
actually
export?
download these pictures out of here,
PNG,
or within the connection graph, and then also within the app connections, there's this download
CSV.
CSV button. So like all of these views, if you need to take the information connected with like perhaps additional investigation is warranted, or you're creating a project plan, creating documentation for the customer, and you need to use these details as part of the customer facing documentation you can use and extract the value out of the tools directly.
Yeah, that's really cool. I guess the images would make for some really interesting and exciting wallpapers and backgrounds as well as, of course, documentation you can show to your clients. And perhaps one of the scariest tabs over here, the IP geolocations. This is where you go to basically figure out who's been connecting to my org and why. And if you see the dots in certain continents where you're not expecting to see, like you mentioned, Russia. I've noticed Gabon in one of my clients, and that prompted some investigation there.
Yeah, exactly. So I think being able then to see specific hotspots of the environment where specific API calls, logins are coming from, they all captured here in one place. This is actually like we have customers in Europe, and they very specifically have some data residency requirements in
Mhm.
terms of data being, staying in Europe, and now, of course, UK is no longer part of EU. For especially for service providers, financial services firms, there's some really strong regulation around data residency. So we're providing all of these insights, helping where specific you know apps and users are connecting from, and where does the data then go, and I think any organization can kind of like very quickly also kind of spot anomalies for if there are any kind of like suspicious countries or locations where you're not doing business. The geolocations are very quickly seen by this view.
So this is what excited me about Valo. We met just outside of the pub in San Francisco at the Salesforce Band Happy Hour. You were telling me about the product. I'm like, I can't wait to try it. Then I tried it. And I was like, it's such richness of features. This must be astronomically expensive. What you give to your clients, and I think you also have a pretty robust roadmap as well. So how does the cost compare to, say, event transaction monitoring and perhaps audit trail?
Yeah, so like Shield, of course, is priced as 30% of the net spend. It's a quite an expensive add-on. Not to mention also the actual human labor cost on top of it. So Salesforce
Mm-hmm.
changes the release every 4 months, and you need to hire consultants, architects, developers, put your team at work, to maintain your
People like me, basically.
field encryption or file encryption, and then you're monitoring, make sure the logs are working and all of this. This is a turnkey solution, so we provide all of this out of the box, and we, of course, try to also maintain a lower price point compared to event monitoring and Shield. We are currently pricing at the lowest level at $12 a year per user, so $1 a month. And then on our highest price point at $60 per user per month for smaller environments. So which comes down to basically $4.99 per user per month on the high tier. So for $5 per user per month, you're able to make sure every user in your environment is configured securely. You understand what they do and how they do what they do inside Salesforce, and you make sure the system is performant. So then there are no errors or and we have this API dashboard also kind of highlighting specific details around each of the app, and you can kind of analyze performance. But like around adoption, performance, and security, we provide value for our customers. So you can really get started with just a few thousands of dollars and get these extra insights into your Salesforce environment without breaking the bank.
Gotcha. And there's an AI component in here as well, right?
Yeah. So of course, AI is now like fantastic.
Valo.ai, right? So.
Well, we actually originally called Valo Security, but then everybody just dropped the security and just kept saying Valo, and we had an opportunity to go with the shorter domain. So we are using AI. So we're actually using Gemini inside the environment, but none of the results are shared with Google. So we're using it kind of like within a contained way to kind of build the tools like the Access Explorer and others. But the AI component and machine learning, which I think is more applicable a word to describe it, is actually looks at performance with a forecast. So it looks at each of these apps, whether what's the trend, where you're trending, what are users doing in terms of their activity, that we're seeing more of this activity, or perhaps some solution is no longer trending and it's actually being kind of less popular, is being exited out, and you can actually see what are the most active apps, users inside the environment. And I think through those insights, you can kind of better plan what is actually happening and where your money and your investment is going.
Excellent. So in Valo, what does that word mean, and in which language?
Oh, that's great. Great question. So yes, I'm originally from Helsinki, Finland, and
Mm-hmm.
Valo is actually a Finnish word, means light. It's also a man's name. There's Valo is a Finnish man's name, but it's a very common word to mean light. And I think your name also has a connotation to
It means
light
exactly
as
the
well.
same thing. so
That's
so if
right.
I went to Helsinki dreaming, or is it Finnish dreaming this coming summer, so I would be known as Valo, not Svet.
That's right.
Right? That's really cool. So I think that
The
was kind of like a.
location, funny enough, the Valo Hotel. It's not our side business or anything like that. We are not in the hotel business, but it is quite a
Oh wow.
common name in Finland, especially if you work in with lights or electricity or there's a venture company and there's a healthcare company. But yeah, Valo is quite a common name. But when you're looking for Valo in Salesforce, remember the AI, and then you'll be able to find our website.
That's very cool. So now I have to go. I'm pretty sure you will be there, but you've lived in the United States for quite some time, right? So you're based in San Francisco?
Yeah, it's been here like, came for 1 year initially with Nokia to work on a M&A project, and then now 19 years later will be 20 years this year, and now a US citizen, so kind of like have my legs on both continents, but like yeah, been in San Francisco all these years, and like mentioned, worked at Salesforce, and then also did a different cybersecurity startups before Salesforce, and then after Salesforce, before starting Valo, I worked for ServiceNow for a few years, which is works in the ITSM category, and yeah, it's I love Silicon Valley and the vibe of the new tech companies, and like all this change, and the culture of like building new things, and and yeah, it's a fantastic region to be in, with all the focus, and of course the headquarters of Salesforce, so the platform that feeds us and takes care of us all.
The whole ecosystem. That's right. So, being that you're from Finland, you must love saunas. And how's the sauna scene in San Francisco?
Yeah, so thanks for asking the sauna question. So yes, of course, like I think there are more saunas in Finland than cars. It is like the a Finnish word to begin with, like so sauna means a hot room where you have a stove, you have rocks, you throw water on the rocks, you get steam, löyly, and for enjoyment. And in the olden days, I think a lot of Finnish people, when they moved to the U.S., to Minnesota, to Washington, and where they migrated, sauna was one of the first things they built. Even before they started building homes. Um, we have actually at the Valo, I kind of did a little test on the Salesforce ecosystem, that like, you know, playing to our Finnish roots, we organized a Salesforce Sauna Sunday at Dreamforce. We did it last year, but we did it also in 2024. First time we had about 300 people signed up, and Wall Street Journal actually showed up and wrote a nice article about us, called like "Want to Network in Silicon Valley? Bring a swimsuit." And we made it to the front page of Wall Street Journal with our strange Finnish sauna event in Dreamforce. And of course, we're not bringing work into the sauna. We're just building community, and we're offering people to have a kind of um, relaxing way to meet like-minded people in a very relaxing, culturally relevant environment of Finnish sauna. And I would now call anybody who's maybe thinking of coming to TDX in April in San Francisco.
Hmm.
Look up from Valo's website. We'll do another sauna event, and we always try to do saunas and offer people an opportunity to relax and kind of have a moment of calm in these crazy conferences where you typically running from session to session, and follow up and evenings, dinners and hotels and everything. So you can kind of like end the event with some calm, and then go and feel recharged as you leave the busy conference.
So I'm happy that you found this other side. So on one hand, you're running a cybersecurity company, which can arguably bring you a lot of stress, and but you also know how to relax. So that's where the sauna comes in. All right. So we did cover quite a bit. So let me ask you something a little bit about the future and advice for listeners. I think looking ahead, let's say 2 to 3 years. So what do you believe will be the biggest shifts in Salesforce security? And how should CTAs and architects be preparing their orgs today?
Right. Yeah, that's a tricky one. I think, like, there is a lot of like doom and gloom in the media around the you know around SaaS applications, like AI is gonna
SaaS
eat out,
apocalypse, yeah.
and like eat out all the SaaS services. I believe that, like, if we look at the evolution of Salesforce, and what I'm calling business systems overall that are really tightly coupled with the business logic. While AI is really relevant, it's lacking this business logic and context. No Salesforce system is used the same way. So people think about it as SaaS, but it's not SaaS. It's a platform. It's business logic. It's your workflow. And when you look at Wells Fargo, or you look at the United Airlines, their use of custom objects and fields and permissions, everything is different. So you can't really make a blanket AI generated policy decision based on in a vacuum, based on like publicly available documentation. So I think this context and business logic is key, and that's why Valo.ai is so strongly coupled understanding the metadata of a customer environment, being able to go deep rather than going kind of like wide and just doing a lot of systems and going a couple of inches deep to see that what users exist or do they have MFA turned on and these kinds of basic things.
So like running the health check and that's calling it a day, right?
Exactly. And I'm not saying, of course, working on health check and it was one of my proudest moments, and I the tool is very important. But I think as we're moving, towards this year and further in the calendar, I think the more important understanding that business logic becomes and the context and being able to package that. And now, last thing I would say is that not everything is exposed via Salesforce APIs. So Salesforce is a proprietary, environment, and there's great APIs, and you can read a lot of things through the APIs, but there's a lot of things you don't. So then you need to have access to that business logic, those customizations, things that are even not in APIs. You need to be able to understand that in order to make the right decision, and maybe that's kind of without revealing all of our roadmap, gives some guidance on what we're building in terms of understanding more of the business logic, looking at insider threat prevention and Agentforce monitoring and capabilities within the environment to better understand that how does that initial security score, the reputation, then match reality of how these are used. And the last thing I want to say is that also there's a lot of talk about Slack being the kind of the new UX for Salesforce, and I've
Yes,
talked to a lot of
heard
consultants
about
that
it.
are especially working on Slack. I think the platform is changing. So whether Salesforce becomes more of a business logic database, a backend, and then you have different access patterns to it, like you're using AI agents, you're using Slack and other tools to interact with it. I can see that especially the traditional, age-old question around salespeople wanting to update, sales records and saying, oh, this tool is not so modern, and I hate inputting data into these fields. Why does so many fields are mandatory to fill in? I think the AI now, really truly first time in history, can help, in populating these records. But that's also where the risks lie, that salespeople will be quickly, updating information and tools, but then the AI has full access on their profiles and permissions, which is also then risky to do. So I think we're really living a very interesting year now, and
Yes.
ready for at the same time major increases in productivity, but it comes at very high risk. So I think something for everybody to think about. And maybe my last point, if I get to say one more thing, is that I think many security teams do not have access to Salesforce. They don't even fully understand the Salesforce language. And I think the challenge, is that when you have business operations, IT teams kind of building security, they're also doing it kind of without being the expert. So that's where I think tools like Valo and others in the ecosystem can help them to make sure they are making the right decisions, while not necessarily always relying on their internal teams who don't have that Salesforce security expertise. And the security teams, you could ask, what are they doing? I think they're focusing on cloud infrastructure. They're focusing on devices and network, but they're not focusing on the business infrastructure and business systems.
Of course, they can just always hire a CTA to make an analysis, preferably one who is conversant in Valo, and everything can happen fairly quickly and get a complete readout of all the things that need to happen. And then, of course, they will need to remediate those security holes and other issues. So, all right. So, closing question for you. So, what's the one piece of advice that you'd give every Salesforce admin or architect who wants to move from, I think we're secure, to I know we're secure? And how can we talked about how the listeners can get hands-on with Valo experience, but again, from I think we're secure to really knowing that I know we're secure, that would be invaluable piece of advice there.
Yeah, I think this is a very large, big question because security is such a broad area. We created a document actually. I think it's about 20 pages long, and we've covered every single imaginable security question based on NIST, the National Institute of
Hmm.
Security Standards in US, based on the standard policies and reflecting that with Salesforce. But and knowing that many admins and architects are very busy and they want to kind of like hop over the problems as fast as they can, I could say that starting with free tools like health check, using tools like Valo will definitely give you speed and ability to kind of like better understand what area of security I should maybe spend my time on versus then like going through programmatically every single thing inside the environment. But I would say that security is a continuous muscle, like need to exercise every day. It's not like a one-time thing where, hey, let's do an audit in Q1 and then call it a day and now we are secure.
We're
It
good
is
for the year.
mindset. It's a policy where you have to continuously apply specific type of risk-based thinking inside your business logic when you're introducing new processes, new employees, new AI agents, and when you're thinking about this new AI that like will take now the jobs of maybe some customer service reps or salespeople, and you're looking at efficiencies, you need to also think about how do you offboard that AI? What data are you giving this new AI tool app that you're going to deploy, and then what is your offboarding plan? So there's a lot of the kind of capabilities that myself, Yari, and the Valo team, as well as Vet, can help you. So just feel free to reach out. I think every organization and every business is different. So I think this is a dialogue. We need to go through some questions with you and your organization, and we'll be able to then come up with a list to help you out and make sure your business is as secure as it can get. And then, of course, there's no endless guarantees, but I would say you make an investment on security tools, there's a possibility this can help with your cybersecurity insurance premiums and other ways, as also then spend, like we can actually analyze that, are you using this tool the right way? So it's not just only the problem of like getting breached, but like optimizing for what you want. And I think these are hopefully some useful thoughts for the listeners, and we're here to help.
I appreciate that. And as my own personal thought for all of us who think that in the next year or two, we're all going to become obsolete and AI is going to take our jobs. I think, first of all, doom and gloom, I don't believe that's going to happen so quickly, if ever. But the one area that I don't think we'll be able to trust completely to AI, that would be the security. So you always need a human in the loop there. And so the moral of the story, do not trust the security of your Salesforce org to OpenClaw, at least not right now, not at this time.
That's right.
So cool. All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you coming here and demoing the product, sharing your thoughts, and thank you for being an active participant in all kinds of dreaming events. So you travel to over 20 events per year, something like that. So
That's right.
I saw you, of course, in Arizona, and hopefully see you soon again
See you in the
in person.
Finland dreaming in the sauna, Sweat.
In the sauna, yes. One of my favorite things to do. All right. So stay tuned for more great conversations on the Lucid CTA YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thank you, Sweat.